Thank you, Bowen, for doing this interview with me. So, to start off, can you just please introduce yourself? And that would include like your major, applicable minors, your pre-professional track, and your name, obviously, and the school that you attend.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Bowen Coldwell. I am 19. I'm a freshman at UDub. Um, I am planning on majoring in neuroscience, but I have a backup. So I'm thinking about like biophysiology, basically a pre-med path. And see, minors, I was initially thinking about history, but maybe that's not so much the end goal now. It might be more like human rights or maybe like a language like Japanese.
All right.
And was that it?
Also, like, what is your like pre-professional track?
Oh, okay, yeah. So pre-med, planning on going to medical school after, hopefully UW. I mean, at least somewhere.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, what made you want to go towards like the medical field?
So I would definitely say a big role, and that was part of my high school. And so, because I took an EMT class my senior year, and I think definitely going through that and having to do even like hands-on certain skills and practicing that sort of thing, even going into the hospitals and the fire stations to actually like see everything in person, was a big factor in me realizing, oh yeah, this is where I want to be in the future.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. So what made you want to go to UW?
So UW was, I know, definitely a school that was a little out of reach, based on scores and grades, but I think I had a lot of extracurricular that kind of helped boost my application, hopefully, because it was definitely my like dream reality school, because I applied to 8 schools, only got into 2 really, and UW was a wait list. So I did my best hoping that they would accept me, and even sent in an appeal, and even that they rejected, but still got off. So
What extracurriculars were you did you do in high school? Because you did mention it.
oh gosh, I did quite a bit. um I was president of French club for 2 years, non-consecutive. um I did Air Force Junior ROTC for 2 years. I did choir, I did archery, I did um oh gosh, I was part of a Asian like cultural club. Um oh gosh, there was quite a bit, but I also did like a firefighter sort of similar to the EMT class, but like this is, you don't really get like a certification or anything. It's just more of like learning the experience, and you could even do ride-alongs too. So I thought that was a really great program.
Oh yeah. All right, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So I know that you are an out-of-state student. You're
Mhm.
from Texas. So did you have any concerns or fears for going to a school that's out of state?
I was actually super excited to go out of state. I mean, it's definitely a lot more expensive, but I think getting the experience and definitely being somewhere where you're not really used to, or maybe somewhere you haven't been at all, is it's really interesting to go and like meet a new community of people. I mean, it's not just everyone you're meeting is from that one place. It's still a lot of people coming from international, other states. It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can say the same thing. Yeah. Um, how did you adjust to being an out-of-state student? Like, what helped you?
Um, hmm. I don't know. I thought, well, definitely a big part was kind of pushing myself a little bit to be more confident and a lot more outgoing, because it's your first year in college. You definitely want to network, meet as many people as possible. Um, yeah, I think that was a really big factor. I'm just like saying hi to everybody, like just down the dorm or in the elevator, just ask people how their day went. I think that's definitely a big factor in no matter where you go, even your own hometown college.
No, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Did you participate in anything before the college year began in order to help adjust?
Um, so before college started, I mean, oh well, I guess yeah, I guess early fall start, UW's early fall start is an excellent program.
Can you
Definitely, at least, huh?
can you explain a little bit as to what early fall start is?
Right. So you get to UW about a month earlier than all the other kiddos, and you can take a class that'll kind of help push you forward a little bit. I mean, not so much, but because I took like an art class, right, and it was definitely involved with a lot of Seattle, and definitely introduced me to a lot of the city and events there and different art performances and whatnot. And I mean, like all around, just not even just the class, but being able to walk around the campus, it's a lot smaller community and smaller classes, and you just kind of get acclimated to a kind of a new lifestyle.
All right. Would you recommend for students to take early fall start?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. So another thing is how do you find UWs like academically wise? Like, do you think they have great academic support? How do you like the class sizes? Just things like that in general.
Yeah, I think they have really good support. I've definitely used my fair share of the chemistry study center, the math study center. I mean, there can be a little blips in there, but I guess that's more of just a personal interaction sort of thing. But like overall, I think access to resources, mental well-being, health. I mean, just being able to go to like the IMA and whatnot. There's a lot of good resources.
Okay. And what extracurriculars are you currently in at UW?
So I am in AED, which is a pre-med honor society. I am in a neurobiology club. Of course, these are all like STEM clubs because I'm pre-med. So um, I did some work with Gray Matters, so the evening with the neuroscience event. Although things kind of became online, so that got a little messy, but things turned out pretty well in the end. Mm, Trying to think. I'm sure there's little bits of volunteering here and there because I currently volunteer. I mean, in Seattle, I volunteer at Roots, which is a young adult shelter right up the Ave. It's not too far away. And I was going to volunteer at Kaiser Permanente and Capitol Hill. So yeah, there's that too.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, were any do you play any sports? Are you in any like fraternities, any research, like jobs, things like that?
Oh gosh. Well, I did really like. I think a big thing I wanted to do when I came to UW was to learn rowing, but like unfortunately they didn't have the class during fall, and their next class would have been spring. But I'm here, so maybe next year. But I did try out some of the classes. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was a really interesting experience.
Would you recommend like freshmen to get involved in like intramural sports?
Yeah, definitely. If it's their thing, and even things that they're not even used to, like something they never try out, or like, because for me, I did yoga and I never really thought about it in the beginning, but it's actually a really, really like great thing to do. Like, I always feel so relaxed afterwards. I feel like I could just fall asleep. It's pretty funny, but and no, I definitely recommend looking into extracurriculars. I think that was definitely a big part. Just how many things you can do here. It's crazy.
All right, thank you for sharing that information. Another thing is like dormitory life because a lot of freshmen do dorm their first year. So can you just elaborate a little bit on like how your experience of dorm life was and like would you recommend it? Did you have roommates that you chose beforehand or was it randomized?
So yeah, I really recommend the dorm life. I think especially for first years, it kind of again like helps get you acclimated to the community and just making new friends, networking. My roommates were randomized, but I was lucky I got really great roommates. I was in a 3-bed private bathroom in McCarty, so in one of the newer buildings, so that was nice. But I think I also got a bias, like preference to that because I did early fall start. So for people who want to live in like McCarty or Lander, it's really good to kind of give you that idea of what the dorms are like. Yeah, I think definitely for first years, it's a good idea to check out dorms.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So now we're going to transition a little bit more towards like your application process for colleges. So how did you feel overall about your college application process?
So yeah, that was definitely a tough time trying to balance senior year, and I know everybody starts to get the feeling of senioritis. So that can be an issue, but you know, for my senior year, I definitely took a lot harder classes, but I think my grades didn't really reflect how well I did in those classes, which was not well. But I think it's really important to focus on the applications and definitely get started early, knowing how you're going to apply, how you're going to structure everything, making sure you can reference like counselors or teachers and ask them for recommendation or letters of recommendation, and for them to kind of edit and look through your essays. That is a big help.
How early did you start like researching and starting your applications?
So researching, I started probably around maybe August, or well, okay, maybe a little bit before that, because that summer I went out and looked at a few different schools, mostly all on the West Coast, including UDub. And so I think definitely touring and visiting schools helps a lot in wanting to learn how to, or where you want to apply to. So I'm so sorry. Could you say that question again?
Also, like when did you like start? I just asked like the timeline for like your research and for when you started your applications, things like that.
Right. Yeah. So I sort of just laid everything out on a document, like, oh, this school looks cool. This school looks cool. Stanford looks cool. It may be sort of out of my reach, but why not? If you have the determination, you can definitely apply to anything, and you put your work into your essays. I mean, definitely a lot of schools will, you may think of schools like, oh, they're only looking at like SAT scores, ACT scores, GPA, but essays definitely play a big role in that sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Were you familiar with the entire application process, or did like your family help you? Did counselors help you?
Yeah. So, that was a little bit of an issue. I definitely had quite a bit of help from my family and my guidance counselor at school and a few teachers. But yeah, that was definitely right around September. I was trying to get all my applications together, writing my essays, trying to balance that with schoolwork. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because it is a tough time during like those times. Um, for when concerning like your classes, I mean not classes, your college application process, what did you think was the most difficult aspect of it?
Most difficult aspect, I think. Oh, it's a little tough. I think kind of just the essay part. I mean, if talking about like specifically, especially having the motivation to do that sort of stuff too, because I know for some people they're might be iffy about college, might be iffy about how much it'll cost, and those are, I mean, definitely things you got to take into account of. But I mean, I guess for me, it was definitely like writing essays and making sure that, oh, I really want it this way. I want it to sound this way. I don't want to. I want to try and avoid cliches. You want to definitely tailor the essay for that university that you're applying to. I mean, now it's kind of hard because you have common application and coalition, and they're all sort of different for the different universities. And so I had to do all three, or well, I did common and coalition and a specific Texas one too. So
All right, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Well, the last question is, what what advice do you have for high schoolers when it comes to applying for colleges, or like what advice do you have for high schoolers who are interested in UW?
okay, so I would definitely say try and get as much experience and knowledge about what you're interested in, career path wise, school wise, everything. It's definitely a good idea to talk to as many people you know about it. Maybe if you have family member who's an alumni, or you know someone who might be in that job or is going into that job. Like for me, especially because I wanted to do pre-med, I have family who are doctors, and it definitely helps to know even people who are med students because they're even closer in age and close to that process too, that they had to do the same sort of thing. But yeah, definitely it's sometimes it may be hard to stay motivated, but you know if you're willing to do it, then you can definitely make it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you, Bowen,
Mm-hmm.
and thank you for sharing your advice with us.
For sure.